Waiting for the stream to refresh.
I'd like to open the July 1st, 2024 meeting of the City Council for the City of Lake City. If everyone can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance of the invocation. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to gather and conduct the business of our community. To ask for your guidance and direction, and that what we do is pleasing in your eyes and for the benefit of our community, for the benefit of our citizens, our troops, our first responders. In your name we pray. Amen. It's actually called.
Mr. Jernigan?
Present.
Mr. Hill? Ms. Young? Mr. Carter?
Present.
Mayor Witt?
Here.
Mr. Rosenthal?
Here.
Mr. Martin?
Here.
Chief Butler?
Here. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the Lake City Council has opened its public meeting since 1968. The city code has prohibited any person from making personal, pertinent, or slanderous remarks or becoming boisterous while addressing the council. Yelling or making audible comments from the audience constitutes boisterous conduct. Such conduct will not be tolerated. There's only one approved manner of addressing the city council that is to be recognized and speak to the public. As a reminder, persons are not to openly carry a handgun or carry a concealed weapon or firearm while the governing body is meeting. They abide by the rules of the forum or result in removal from the meeting. Okay, next we have approval of the agenda.
So approved, Mayor. Second.
First and second to approve the agenda. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, public participation. President Barrett from the college is here and we want to speak to an item of the consent agenda, item number 5, resolution 2024-57, and I told him he would have a few extra minutes. President Barrett.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. First, I want to thank the new city manager, Mr. Rosenthal, for meeting with me today. I believe he will be a great asset and leader for Lake City. And I also want to thank Dee Johnson for all his work over the past few months working with the college. Their leadership, as all of you know, will be imperative for the future of Lake City. The issue I bring forward to you is not one that Mr. Rosenthal can solve by himself, thus my appearance this evening. I really did not want to speak with you tonight and thought that some of the issues, challenges, which are many between the city and the college, could and should be resolved. After 9 years of issues, some ongoing for 33 years, the college needs to receive clarity and closure on. Before I begin, I want to stress that the college is in no way anti-development and anti-city, as some have claimed in the past. We are a vital and significant part of the community in both education, training, and economic development, and the college is an economic engine contributing $85 million to our community each year. Not many organizations can say that. I've spoken to this entire council individually about the past challenges between the college and the city regarding these issues, and all of you have indicated your willingness to work and solve our challenges. Well, tonight you will have the opportunity to do that, just that, with this one issue that was created by agenda item number 5, resolution 2024-057. There are significant issues regarding property around the airport. The issue of what entities own what regarding the airport and the college has been ongoing since 1991. The City Council and the College Board of Trustees entered into an agreement in 2020, this council and my Board of Trustees, agreeing to share in a survey completed by both the city and the college and the city would pay for it. And the results of that survey would then, regardless of the outcome of the property lines, act as a way forward to a property swap and resolution to this long-term problem. The survey was conducted swiftly by a surveying crew and the results shared with both governing bodies. There have been numerous requests by the college to resolve this issue, including paying out of our pocket for the survey fully. Over the past 3 years, we've requested on a multitude of occasions, and as recently as past April 2024, my attorney for the college, Megan Logan, reached out to your attorney to have this issue settled. Still no resolution. Well, this same property, the city is proposing this grant for this proposal for this is potentially in question. Not 100% what is going on, but the city should take this all into consideration. And then I want to do 2 other questions. The questions is in regards to your application that you provided, a draft application, I should say, which is very inaccurate and potentially misleading. On part 2 of the application for this said thing, it asks on item number 3, are there any unforeseeable events that could delay the completion of this project? The answer that the city provided was no. I would disagree with that. Item number 4,
Go ahead.
will the project covered by the request have impacts or effects on the environment requiring mitigating measures? There's significant water issues between the college and the city regarding the airport. So I would, once again, you answered no, I would answer the question yes. On part C of the application, it says compatible land use. The sponsor has taken the following actions, which is the city, to assure compatible usage of land adjacent to or vicinity of the airport. Your answer to that was yes. We have not been consulted at all, the contiguous property owner. On number 3, possible disabilities, I would say the same thing. For time constraints, I'm not going to read it out loud. Consideration of local interest, number 5, it is given fair consideration to the interest of communities in or near or where the project may be located. Once again, heard nothing about this except for today. Air and water quality standards, number 8, it says that there are none. With an air taxi located within 100 yards of a campus community, there's significant air and water quality issues. And finally, the issue of land in number 10, which talks about certifying that this property, there's no property in question, that there's any disputes regarding this property. I would argue significantly there are significant problems. Finally, I want to just tell you, I'll give the exact date, in May of 2022, there was a campus, with the campus involved, with the airport committee, which was involved with lots of people in the community. The county, the city was involved. In 2022, that committee was given an airport report, a proposed plan of action, a 460-page document that none of this council or the previous council has ever seen. The college president has that and is available and has shared that with staff. And still, some 2 years later, this council has not addressed that issue. And all these issues need to be addressed as part of that project plan. Our patience, we don't have any more patience. We've been patient for 33 years regarding many of this thing, and in my tenure, 9 years. All I would ask is to be good neighbors and to try to solve this question and not pass this resolution tonight until we solve these issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Warren?
I thought they just only $15.
Oh, yeah. Any question? No.
Man, be a little patient with me. I got a fractured foot and 10 little patients on me. I'm trying to get my way to the podium. Appreciate you recognizing me. Yes, sir, for Dr. Berry, man. I didn't know y'all were treating the college like that. I knew the hood was getting treated bad. Ma'am, I recognize at this point. Thank you.
Yes.
May I stand before you, Sylvester Warren, for the record. I stand before you and the council and city administration to contend that using free inmate labor is wrong. One, you take a job away from someone who could use it. Second, the inmates who provide this free labor can't even be hired by the city once released, but can be used as a slave in a slave-like manner while incarcerated. Also, slave-like labor inmates with the combination of a erected Confederate monument does not look well as a city. And that may be some of the reason that y'all are not getting the play from bigger corporations and business desires as it relates to the city along with other things. Mayor, the fact that you or the council has made no effort into aid and affordable housing is very deplorable. Mayor and council, I come today to hold a mirror up so that you can see it is you and the council who are murdering our youth, sending them to prison, and the real cause behind gun violence because of your lack of concern, financial contribution to real and meaningful programs and options for inner city youth. Mayor, have you or others ever asked why is the stormwater department a part of public works? and not DNC. Where the people who have the experience, the knowledge, technology should be housing that department, which in turns make things in DNC and Public Works fit and run more efficiently and effective, which is asinine. No other city has that. People, well, they have pipes, known to have people who work on them. You don't have that. Why you got that department over there? No idea. Maybe Mr. Rosenthal may have a magic wand and know why. I don't. Never made sense to me. But I just wanted to bring it to your attention. And lastly, Mel, when is the city going to stop using utility revenue as a slush fund to pay for unnecessary expenses in other departments and city crony pet projects? It will not surprise me one bit if when it comes out that the city of Lake City is not financially sound and solid as many put on. The city has only been transferring money around, basically robbing Peter to pay Paul. By all accounts, will come to catch up with the city this budget cycle if significant changes, budgeting, and planning does not take place immediately. Men lie, women lie, but numbers don't lie. And I can promise you, you can ask Mr. Rosenthal, y'all numbers are not gonna lie, but the men and women have been. Y'all are in a bad financial state, and this budget cycle is gonna show it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bowles?
Mr. Mayor, Councilwoman Young, Councilman Carter, Councilman Hill, I come before you tonight and do the public process, just make some public comments as it relates to the item that come up later. Since y'all have 2 minutes, I want to use as much time as I can. I said in the last meeting that I will not be coming before y'all again arguing about compensation for the city council members. But since it's on the agenda to go before people, I thought it was necessary for me to repeat some of the things I said in the past. Nothing about this proposed ordinance will prevent the city council from getting their raise. Nothing. Nothing prevent it. All it says is a standalone resolution for you to get one. The city manager will come up with a budget soon. He's gonna be proposing a raise. My tenure on the city council, about 4 or 5 city managers, I had not one city manager propose a raise with the city council in mind. The city manager said we're gonna propose this raise for the employees. But back in the time, we said, okay, we're employees. So we're gonna make ourselves a part of this whole process. And so that was wrong. When I voted for it, man, I did it, Mr. Carter, I did it for selfish reasons. You said, well, you got it. And ain't nobody said anything. That's the reason. Nobody knew anything about it. They didn't pay no attention to it. But now we know about it. And we know it's wrong. There is no reason for the city council this day and time to get the same rating that employees get automatic. If you want to get it, have a standalone resolution. We'll put it out there for the people to say, have some say so, and you can get it. Mr. Mayor, when it comes up for the orders, you also have the city attorney to read it by title.
Right.
This is so important, if you don't mind. I already spoke with him a little bit about it. Read, and also read into the record recital line 17 through 34, and the ballot language 54 through 64. It's fairly short.
Got that.
17 through 34, and 54 through 64. Read that into the record. So when we start discussing, it'll be a lot easier for people to understand. There's some people who watching us on YouTube, some people can't read that well. So I want to get into the record so that people know exactly what we're talking about. We're not talking about the city council not getting the raise. We are talking about the opportunity for transparency, for accountability, so people have an opportunity to speak to it. And if the city council is afraid of people speaking to it, then that's a problem. The same people who ask to vote for you, the same people should be come up here and say, yes, I agree with that raise. No, I don't agree with that raise. So I'll talk more about it when it comes up. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. McKellis, you want to bring your fruit up?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mayor Witt, thank you for your donation. City Manager Don Rosnell, Councilwoman Young, and Councilwoman Hill. My name is Brayla Williams, the reporter, and this is Kayleana Williams, the president of YWE, and we are members of the Young Women of Excellence mentorship program under the umbrella of the Greater Lake City CDC. This year, we hosted our 3rd annual Summer Youth Empowerment Camp, which was held from June 11th through June 14th, with the attendance of approximately 35 youth. The camp consisted of arts and crafts trips to Richardson Gym for some physical exercise, an educational field trip to the Lake City Airport, and many other fun activities. At the end of the camp, we were blessed to have visits from some of our local government officials, such as Councilwoman Young, the Lake City Fire Department, and the Lake City Police Department. Those of us that attended the camp were served a healthy breakfast and lunch and nutritional snacks. We also received a certificate at the completion of the camp and a gift bag of goodies. A big thank you goes out to the Lake City Community College, Mr. Travis George, for donating the bags. Also, we would like to thank Councilman Hill for his generous donation, which helped make the summer camp a huge success. Last but not least, we want to thank Councilwoman Young for taking time out of her busy schedule to come share with us about her position as a councilwoman. And we would like to present a basket which was made in our camp as a token of our appreciation. This presentation is on behalf of the Greater Lake City CDC and the Young Women of Excellence. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we're to the consent agenda, and I'm gonna ask somebody to make a motion to, remove item 5 that, President Barrett spoke of, and have staff look at that. Somebody make a motion. Move the table.
I'll make a motion, that we table city council resolution number 2024-057.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second, any discussion? Ms. Hodge, you call the roll.
Ms. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Carter?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. Jernigan?
No.
Mayor Witzel?
Yes. Okay. Is there a motion as to the remaining consent agenda?
Move to approve the remaining consent agenda. Second.
Motion and second to approve the remaining consent agenda, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Presentation. I'd like to present the certificate of completion of the Institute for Elected Municipal Officials.
Mayor, if you will, I think we need to back up a little bit. I may have to, put my motion back.
Okay.
Because, I did make a note here, I just clarified, that we're gonna lose this money if we don't go ahead and apply for this grant. So applying for the grant, I think is very imperative, because we need to get the money, to use the money, but if we don't apply for it then, and decide we wanna use it, we don't have it. And can Ms. Rose give me?
Absolutely.
Mayor?
And we plan on working with the college and working it out, but we need to have the funding to be able to make some of the improvements that we're gonna need to make. And we can't do it without the funding.
How tight are, can we get to the next meeting?
It can't go, it went to this meeting from the last meeting. So if it goes to the next meeting, we're gonna lose roughly $140,000.
Mr. Mayor, may I speak?
Yeah.
Yes, and that's one reason why I didn't approve of it, simply because of the grant. We get the grant, even if we don't use the grant, at least we'll have it. And not only that, I had a long discussion with the city manager as well, and he's gonna work hand and feet with the college and making sure that the things that Mr. Barrett was talking about, that we try to accomplish those missions. So I think we should reconsider and leave it as written, and go ahead and get the monies with the grant, and we use that money accordingly. And see how Mr. Rosenthal is gonna tackle those matters at the college, concerning the college. I believe we can get it done.
Can we do that?
I believe the motion was to, well, if I recall, Mr. Mayor, your statement was remove it from the consent agenda and place it on the table. I cannot remember the exact verbiage of Councilwoman Young's motion. I believe it was just to remove it from the consent agenda.
Right.
And so if something is removed from the consent agenda, then in the absence of anything specifically determining what should happen to it, it would just fall into place on the regular agenda as a standalone item, is the way most other governmental entities would handle it. It's already on the agenda, you're just moving it from one place on the agenda to another. My suggestion would be under resolutions, which right now doesn't have anything under it, but that would ultimately be up to the council. I can tell you that's traditionally the way a consent agenda would operate, is if somebody pulled something off of it, it doesn't come off the complete agenda, it just moves to a standalone item for discussion.
That's the table. I think she did say table.
She did say table.
She did, so if you said table, then it would be, let me come back to you on that issue and see if it can be removed from the table in the same meeting that it was placed on the table or not, if the motion was to place it on the table. So,
Or a motion, can they reconsider or no?
a motion to reconsider would not be applicable.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to present this change order for the certificate of completion. Next, we have a CPA with the annual audit for the year ending September 30th, 2023. Brendan McKissick and James Ford.
Just the.
Yep.
Hi, I'm Brendan McKissick, Director with James Moore and Company, our external auditors. There should be a couple documents in front of you, including the colorful set of financial statements as well as a printout of the PowerPoint. I'd recommend following along using the PowerPoint. It really summarizes the items I want to talk about tonight. Before we get into the presentation itself, I did want to thank the council for the opportunity to perform the audit again this year. I also want to thank Angie and her team for all their help. There's a lot of work that goes into these financial statements, so really appreciate everything that they do.
Yellow one. Just this here. All right, I guess I'll just do it.
I appreciate it. It's only.
Yeah.
So as I mentioned, these financial statements are really the city's financial statements. However, there are some reports as auditors that we include as well. The first report being your audit report. This is where we express our opinion really on the reliability of the numbers included in your financial statements. We do have what's called a modified opinion or a clean opinion. It's really kind of the best set of opinion we can provide over the financial statements. The second report is your single audit report. This is due to the city receiving in excess of $750,000 in federal and state grant expenditures. With that, it triggers the single audit, which requires us to do specific testing over controls and compliance. As you can see on the slide, there were no issues or findings in that report either. The third report, the internal control and compliance report, although we don't express an opinion over internal controls, we're still required to look at those with regards to financial reporting. If we had any issues, we would include that in the report. As you can see here, there are no internal control or compliance matters included in that report. And then the fourth item is your Chapter 10-550 report or management letter to the Auditor General. Some required communication in there. We did have one item in here related to budgetary compliance. This really has to do with an audit adjustment that we ended up posting as far as our procedures. With that, it had the actual expenditures for the airport capital project fund in excess of budget. So that creates this comment. But again, this is related to an audit adjustment, talking to Angie. This isn't going to be an issue next year. There is a response as well in the back regarding specifically that adjustment and this comment. But again, that's the only item to note in that report. And then the last report, the examination report, just indicating the city's in compliance with all required statutes. So looking at some of the numbers, your general fund, that's your main operating fund for the city. This is the 5-year kind of trend over the fund balance specific for the general fund. Just to kind of highlight a couple of the items, that assigned fund balance, that's really those ARPA dollars as well as the subsequent year budget. So that did go down slightly, again, some spend on the ARPA as well as a change in kind of the subsequent year budget carry forward balance. With the total fund balance of about $28 million, that increase mainly due to some of the increase in state revenue as well as ad valorem dollars. Along the same lines, we do a calculation with that general fund balance, specifically the assigned and unassigned as a percentage compared to expenditures. This year, that percentage is at about 166%. And really the baseline we use is the GFOA recommends 2 months or 16%. So if you were close to that percentage, we'd have some concern there, but obviously well above that, that's 16%. Looking at your business type funds, your wastewater, natural gas, this is kind of the 5-year, again, trend on your unrestricted net position. This is one where we always like to say this is half the picture, right? So the other half is what's beneath the ground, so really the infrastructure providing the services to your citizens. So with that being said, you all did invest about $2.8 million in water and sewer additions. Again, that would be what we would want to see, again, continue to invest in that infrastructure. And then some other governmental fund activity notes, your fire department fund had an assigned fund balance of about $14,500. The airport capital projects, I mentioned that audit adjustment that created the fund deficit. Again, I don't see an issue there next year. And then your CRA, has a restricted fund balance of about $271,000. With regards to the CRA, we are required to issue a separate audit report. In that audit report, didn't have any findings either. And some of, sorry. Go back. Just a couple other highlights. ARPA, there is an assigned fund balance in your financials, so the unspent portion is about $5 million. And then GASB 87 leases, that was new last year, but that is included in your financials. Really just a balance sheet impact, not much of an income statement bottom line impact. And then your pension funds, specifically the general police and fire, again, kind of showing that net pension liability or net pension asset for the police fund, and really that funding percentage. So that table on the right showing the funding percentage, really want to see that above 70 or 80%, and again, that's kind of in line with what we would expect. And with that, I'll open it up to any questions.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Okay, I need a motion to approve the audit.
Motion to approve.
Carl made a motion to approve the audit.
Second.
Jeremy. Any discussion? Ms. Action, you call the roll.
Mr. Carter?
Yay.
Mr. Jernigan?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Ms. Young? Mayor Witten?
Yes. Okay, next is, Columbia Maker Space Shine Holbrook PowerPoint presentation.
Thank you, Mayor, council members, Mr. Rosenthal, everybody in attendance. I've got a PowerPoint presentation that's going to go over the Columbia County Makerspace ideas and goals for the next year. We're hoping to partner with the city to create a training center for technology. This will be an opportunity for youth, 8 to 80-year-olds to learn about CNC and advanced manufacturing processes and radio technology and aerospace. I don't know if you've got the presentation up for me.
No one's giving a presentation.
Michelle didn't email that to you.
All I had was Audrey's.
Can you pull up just
Angela, sorry.
It's in the agenda packet. If you'll pull up the packet, you can just pull it from the packet offline.
So while he's looking for the presentation, which I know you've all had a chance to look at, I'm going to go over a few goals and talk about some of our concepts. As you know, I've been active trying to teach technology in the community, and some of my outreach over the last couple of years has led me to connect with other leaders in the community, including the Columbia County Economic Development Council and the Amateur Radio Association that provides emergency radio services to the county, and also local educators. And so we've got a board formed, a 501c3, that's basically trying to present the idea of a makerspace. And I don't know without the slides how easy it'll be for me to describe that to you, but a makerspace is basically a community conference center. It's a place where people are able to come and attend for free, and they're able to join and have memberships like you would at a YMCA or YWCA. And instead of having books or instead of having lectures and things inside, what's inside is technology. You've got 3D printers, you've got flight simulators, you've got things that help do 3D modeling and teach kids how to code. And so I say kids, but the kids that I'm talking about are 8 to 80 years old. These are people that have an interest in learning technology. I'm going to be at a loss without the slides that actually show some of the things that I'm trying to sell tonight. But the concept that we're looking for, and I'm going to plant some seeds tonight, is that we need a facility. We have a board, we have philanthropists, we have grant opportunities to bring in equipment and things to train people, but we need a location. We need, typically the way a makerspace works is it's all philanthropy. There's no profit, oriented business that can afford to pay for a space. So oftentimes a government agency like a library or city council will provide a space, and it can be a small space. It can be a broom closet at first where we can just have a mailing address. But the key is we have to have a meeting place where people can come together and we can locate a 3D printer and a computer workstation and a projector and have classes and lectures. And so we need a space. We need, let's say, 500 square feet at minimum, okay? In my presentation, I was going to talk to you about the ideal space that you have, which is here we go, which is, okay, so here's Columbia County Makerspace, and we're 503c workspace where people with common interests can come together. We have created an electronics resource center, which is basically filled with all kinds of routers and 3D printers and technology that people learn how to use. And so we give them a place where they can create. And what we're gonna do here is any real makerspace has a focus. Sometimes if you go to Gainesville, the focus is on advanced manufacturing because they have so many upstarts in the college. But we realize that we've got aerospace in our backyard. We've got HACO, and we've got one of the best international colleges for aerospace right on the Space Coast, Embry-Riddle, that wants to partner with us. And so we want to bring aerospace into Lake City. That's one of our key disciplines. Let me go back to that slide. And then there's a lot of other technology which we will teach, including robotics, woodworking, radio, coding, welding. But some of these things are being done professionally at the college level. Some of them are being done at the school level. And so we're not going to replicate things that are already being done well. We're going to find those niches where it's not being done, or those people who can't quite access that class. They're not in school, can't afford to go to college. They may be working and have to access this education at night or on the weekends. And so we're going to give them a facility where they can learn stuff in a non-disciplined way, like where they won't have to go to college and follow a college schedule, but they can come and check in. So on the next slide, I just show a few of the things that we play with. These are some of the robotics tools and little components that we use. We teach with Arduino and Raspberry Pis. But one of the things I want to point out is that these devices that we teach on, like the Raspberry Pi, is a $70 computer. I can take someone who has a limited budget, who can't really afford to buy a $1,000 computer workstation for their child at home, and I can say, here, if you buy a $60 monitor and a $70 computer for $125, I can get you in a coding lab. And I could have your child working all weekend, all night long, every night on coding games instead of going out and getting into trouble or whatever. So if we go through the key is all this stuff is like under $100. Literally what we're teaching people how to do is engage yourself or engage youth with technology for very little money. Next slide. So everything is going to IoT, Internet of Things. Everything that we see and touch, our refrigerators, our cars, every home appliance, our watering systems, everything that we do is going to IoT, and yet we're not really teaching kids in Columbia County how to get into that technology and program the programmable logic controllers and program the devices that are going to be around them for the rest of their life. So what I'm saying is let's give them a free or subsidized opportunity to go into a computer lab and touch these devices and learn about IoT and learn how they can connect with the outside world and how they can expand their career path. So the vocational training benefits, if I can lift that slide a little, we're really tied in with the Columbia County Economic Development Department. They are so excited about what we're doing, and the county is excited. The county, if they were here, would back up everything I'm saying. They want this because they're bringing in tech jobs into the mega industrial park. They're bringing in technology into the county because that's what's really growing. And we don't really create the employment skills. We don't output the people with the skills to work on programmable logic controllers and to code and to do things yet. But this will be a good starting point. This will give us a chance to teach our youth and to teach anyone who's retraining or retooling their career to come in and take technology on head on and learn these careers. And then, one of the things that's so important is you create, once you've got this space, you create a mentorship pool. You create an opportunity for vets and for people that are retired and for people that are trying to build their workforce in a place like a CNC shop where they're building cabinet doors and they can't find people. You create an opportunity for people to come into the work center and train and have classes on a Saturday morning and teach people how to weld or how to use the equipment. And so by giving us this space, and really I'm asking you to create the space for us. By giving us this space, you're giving everyone else the opportunity to train the youth for free and to expand that knowledge base out there. So it's really important. We need at least 2 years of free rent from somewhere. This concept won't fly if we have to pay for rent and utilities and things, but we can get grants to buy equipment and to buy projectors and computers and to buy the things that are needed to go inside. So we definitely need somebody to help subsidize the building. Now, finding the right location is really important, and I believe it shouldn't be out in the country. I believe it does its best interest if it's in the central business district, right downtown, where we draw people into the city and they want to buy coffee from the local coffee shops, and they want to, spend time in the restaurants downtown after they finish their projects. But the key is, it's well lit, it's well supervised, we don't have to worry about security as much. We have so many opportunities where, because we're really talking about youth-driven exercises, if people want to bring their 15-year-old and their 18-year-old kids downtown and drop them off at the makerspace, we don't want that to be in a warehouse district. We don't want it to be out on 441 where it's not supervised well. We want it to be in a nice central location. So if I can go to the next slide. You guys have a building that's perfect for us, and it was purchased a couple of years ago. It was one of the bank buildings on the bottom left corner. But this concept can go anywhere. We can have a wood shop out in an industrial park. We can have a campus where there's more than one location. But the bottom left building is the most promising. If I can go to the next slide. I was just saying, we won't keep all of our eggs in one basket. We'll probably have meetings at places like Teen Town, and we'll have, we'll probably have spaces where we have bigger events and we have to rent like the facility. But an ideal location would be, if I can go to the next slide, that bank building, if you look at on the right side, it has that entire parking lot, and it has a building in the back, and it has the bank in the front. And I know that area is all being developed, and you're working on the parking area out there. But let me describe how this would fit in with our plans. And I'm gonna give you a little caveat. Finance department is concerned about the bond that was used to purchase this building, and I know there's some legalities and things that are involved, and so please don't take this as like the only opportunity. This is just giving me an opportunity to describe the perfect scenario. If this bank building doesn't work out, then we need something else, okay? But here's why the bank building is perfect for us. It's right in the center of downtown. In the back, it has the old drive-through building, which you're using for storage, which could be a wood shop, and that would allow us to separate the dust and the vacuum systems and the things from the clean spaces that needed to be where the programming and the coding and the robotics were being done in the front building. The field would create opportunities for parking, of course, but of course shared with the city, other functions. It wouldn't be exclusively ours, but that field would also allow us to set up in very close proximity to where we were, a caged environment where you could have drone competitions in the middle of town that were controlled. So you could have drone exhibitions and contests and races and things. You could also use that parking area for RC car races and other things that tie in with what we're trying to do. So all I'm saying about that bank building location is It's perfect because it has the space that we need for clean programming, it has the space that we need for a wood shop and to be segregated, and it also has the field that we need to do RC stuff in the middle of town. Now, if there's a place at the hospital authority, or if you have another building, or if there's something the county owns, we're open to it, but we wanted to present to you and say, we're here, we're ready to apply for grants. We've got $500,000 worth of grant equipment that we can apply for once we have a location that we can put it. And we need the city's help. Next slide. This is what it'll look like inside. It'll look like a electronics laboratory. Keep next slide. CNC numeric control machines. These things are like $20,000 a piece. Laser engravers, $10,000, $15,000 a piece. And these are things that we'll get from grants, and we'll teach people how to use and teach them new employable skills. Robotic arms. This is really important for the things that are coming into the mega industrial park, because there's a lot of palletizing and there's a lot of machinery that is going to use robotic arms. And if we can train people on how to use them, we'll actually have employable skills to deport to those jobs. 3D printers, everybody knows about a 3D printer, but not everybody has access to these tools, and sometimes you just want to make one keychain or one idea. So we're going to allow hobbyists and people that have ideas that they want to bring to fruition an opportunity to come and play in our lab. Self-taught and open source. Now, one of the people that you may know, Matt Smith from Express Employment Professionals, he's a hobbyist, and he's one of the people that will join us. And he's told us for less than $1,000, he'll help us build this CNC router and teach us a series of classes so that the people that come to the classes learn how to build their own equipment. And then you can actually downsize this and make one for $300 or less. Radio technology. Now, on our board is the treasurer of the local amateur radio association, and we have a good standing with them, and they want to help us and teach radio and teach any kind of disciplines that go along with that, including the RC radio control disciplines. And then, of course, we'll have computer and graphic workstations, and how it gets financed is basically we get an upstart from the city and from grants, but we ultimately charge fees for classes, we charge membership fees, and we build a sustainable environment so that after about 2 years, we don't have to ask people for money to operate. We're just basically getting grant opportunities at that point. We do have some philanthropists, local philanthropists that are lined up, ready to put money in, ready to put equipment in, as soon as we can get a facility. But we do need a free building. That's where I need the city to really think about this. All right, next slide, self-sufficiency, community outreach. We'll work with all of the local clubs, we'll work with radio stations, we'll work with 4-H, we'll work with anybody that'll talk to us about hosting classes, having lectures, having their people come in and teach their disciplines in the community center that we're creating. We're also talking about putting a solar power plant on site to provide power for the electronics in the building, and that will help teach that whole trade, that whole solar trade, and how you store and how you create solar energy. Next slide. I'm done. I know I took too much of your time already, but I'm open for any questions. All our contact information is there. We just really want to start a conversation with the city about how we can grow this into the city center.
Mr. Mayor, I would ask Mr. Holman, I think, would you mind sharing just a little bit about your background? I know some of it, but for folks who don't.
I've been in technology for 20 years. I've ran a computer company for 11 years. I ran a drone brokerage company where I sold drones to government agencies and militaries for counter surveillance and counter narcotic surveillance primarily. So I've been doing computers and websites and drone technology and aerospace for 20 years of my life. When I came to Columbia County, I saw that there was a real focus on nursing, there was a real focus on forestry, there was a real focus on welding, but there wasn't a real focus on high tech. There wasn't really and in order to get into high tech, you pretty much had to leave the county. And ironically, like a year before I got here, there was a pretty active robotics club in the southwest end of the county, but they kind of fizzled out. So it's like, I see this as being a way that we can draw the youth and draw the people that are bored in the community, that are getting into trouble, and draw them into something that they may not want to play sports. They may not fit the other curriculums that we have, but if we create the right programming and the right opportunity, then maybe they'll just figure out a new hobby, or maybe they'll figure out a new way to earn a living by using technology. And that's something that God gave me the talents, so I want to share that with the community.
May I ask a question? Are you done?
Go ahead.
But you said we will be teaching the class. Is you and others, or are you going to be teaching it by yourself? You said you already got a committee already together. So how many is it, and who's going to be teaching those classes to the youth? That's one part. And the other part is how much it costs per student or per individual to attend one of your classes.
Good.
Are those good questions or not?
Very, very good question.
Thank you, Reverend.
We have a 5-member board. We plan to hire professional speakers to teach the classes. Some of the events, in fact, most of the energy that goes into this is volunteer. So I mentioned one person, I mentioned Matt. And Matt is going to come and he's going to teach classes for us. And he's not doing that, I hope he's not going to charge me, but he's doing that because he wants to share this knowledge with other people. He wants to teach. It's a mentorship opportunity. So he is my ideal teacher, okay? Because that's really where we want to get the lessons from. I'll give you another teacher. We spoke to HACO and we said we want to do makerspace and we want to train people on industrial manufacturing and disciplines, and we want to have an output that would match your needs, your intake needs. So if you have a special riveter that you use, would you bring a riveter to us and teach a class on how to use that? And he said, absolutely. I'll donate the equipment. I'll have an instructor there. I'll help you structure the class. And then he said to me, if you can do that, if you can create a program where you teach the right disciplines, then you can be like a apprenticeship, so that when they leave your class, they're already primed to come into our apprenticeship program. So we're actually working to develop the workforce development connections that are needed, and those people are going to bring the instruction to us.
Mr. Mayor, I have another question. Earlier you mentioned Gainesville. So Gainesville has a makerspace, kind of like what you're hoping to achieve?
Gainesville has 2 maker spaces. One is a collective of just retirees that just have their own not-for-profit place where they can all do electronics, and it's really cool. The other is under the direction of an executive director, and they've got a program, and they actually have approved an apprenticeship program with the state forgive me, I don't know all these agencies, but the state workforce development agency, they've got an approved course called a professional maker. And what they do is they teach people how to go into a workspace, how to put on goggles, ear protection, how to read the signs, how to understand, the safety protocols, how to approach equipment, if they have to have a special key, if they have to, sign in. Basically you teach them the responsibility of working in a commercial workplace and the OSHA guidelines that are required. And then after, I think it's, I want to say it's like 3-month course. After 3 months, they get a certificate saying that they're approved as a professional maker. And that is accepted by so many different employers now, because they're like, okay, at least I don't have to explain to them, how to punch in, how to put their eye protection on, that sort of thing. So, but Gainesville is only one of about 8 cities in Florida that has a makerspace. Jacksonville has one tied to their library. There's one in Tallahassee. There's one in Tampa. There's one in Miami. They're all over the place. Melbourne has an excellent makerspace that we modeled some of our documents after. One thing about these makerspaces that's really a good concept, I'd like to plant this seed. Everything is open source, free, meant for community resources. It's 501c3 driven, no profit allowed. It's truly an altruistic effort by business leaders and industry leaders to try to create an opportunity zone inside their city. And so I'm inviting you to create an opportunity zone inside your city, and I want to help.
Mr. Hogan, I can recall you, and I can remember you standing at the same podium opposing everything that we was trying to do when people was coming from the north side of the track to better the north side of Lake City. Here you are tonight asking us to help you start this program. If we assist you with starting this program, how do I know that you will be fair to the people on the north side of the track?
That's a good question. I steered away from putting this on the west side of I-75, right on 90. And the reason I steered away from that was because I felt like city folks weren't going to be served well. Our needs would have probably been met out there. We had a great facility. And the people that were coming down here from Georgia or coming from other counties would have had easier access to it. But I said, no. The way this really works is you get the energy and you get the love of the city. And you do it right in the heart of the city, not out on the outskirts. And I'm asking you to put it right in your district. I'm asking you to put it in a place where I want your residents to come. I want your kids to come. And I'm actually counting on applying for grants that may be aimed at helping people that are in a disadvantaged district, which I can't do if I move out to the west side of town. So I'm actually planning on helping my district, District 10. And I said that, and Chavella will have to admit, when we were campaigning against each other, this was one of the things I campaigned with. I said, I want to bring technology education to Lake City. This is not something that I've ever wavered on, but to your question, sir, I want every person in Lake City to have access to technology and a good education and an opportunity to get away from drugs and violence and other influences that exist in this community by giving them something positive that they can spend 10 or 20 hours a day playing with. I want to help the community.
Now I have a few questions, and I do want to say that was a great response to Councilman Hill's question. I wish you had opened up with that response rather than security and lightning, because that was your reason for getting in the city in your initial presentation. It was for the security and for the lightning. But I love the way you responded with Councilman Hill, but it would have had so much value if that had been your response for having in the city initially. Now, my question is, how are your board members selected?
Well, we selected, they have to be selected by the other members of the makerspace, and right now they're the formative board, so they were I'll tell you who they are. It's me, and it's Jennifer Daniels, the Director of Economic Development for Columbia County. And I've got Amy, Amy, I can't remember her last name. She's the principal at Heart to Heart Academy for, I think it's the middle school. I've got Dylan Adams, who's a real estate professional, and he's been helping us with some contracts and things. And then Colin, Colin is our radio person. He's from the board of the Amateur Radio Association. So there's 5 people on our board.
Okay, so Councilman Jernigan asked the question, how much would the children have to pay?
So the way this works is sort of like a YMCA or YWCA, and so we typically, our fee structure right now is set for $60 a month to have access to our facility. But imagine that since we don't have a facility, we're having a hard time collecting $60 a month. So we've waived our fees for the year until we actually get established somewhere. When we have to hire someone to teach a class, it'll be proportionate to the number of people that we have in the class. So if we have a $250 speaker fee and we've got 25 people in the class, obviously we have to charge at least $10 per person to take that class. We've done 3 events this year, and we've charged $0 for every event. We did a makerspace repair clinic where we fixed radios and lamps and anything that anybody brought to us, we fixed, and that was no charge. And we also had a code camp. It was an 8-day code camp that we had at a local church, and we didn't charge anything if you pre-register, but if you showed up at the door, we asked for $5. So our fees are really based on how cheap we can do it. We really don't want to make money. We're not trying to, make this into a profit-oriented thing, but if we do have to hire a guest speaker, then we have to distribute the cost, of course, throughout that. And so in some ways, when we have let's say we have our operation running for a year and we've got 100 members, and those members are paying as an average $60, but then we have student rate, or if someone has a financial difficulties, and we have a reduced rate of say $20 a month to belong. And then what that would do is that would waive your having to pay the $5 fee for a class if you're a member. And then if you aren't a member and you want to come to one of our classes, then you got to pay $5. Otherwise, there's no incentive to join our club. but it's a very affordable club idea. It's meant to be like a YMCA or YWCA kind of concept.
It sounds like a stupendous idea. I just think it's great. But I know 501(c)(3)s who come before us and request funds and assistance, they already have some type of revenues. They have some type of monies already. I mean, you can't just bank on what the city can do. And as far as the building, I'm not inclined to vote for it before you get it for free, as they say, because we've turned away several businesses, organizations, 501(c)(3)s who come up and ask for buildings for free. And I'm just not inclined, I'm not inclined to do it for free, so there would have to be some type of offer.
May I comment on that?
Sure.
Some 501(c)(3)s have singular purposes and they don't really benefit the entire city. Our concept is so altruistic. What we're trying to do is we're trying to take one of your buildings and repurpose it into a community center. We're not trying to make an office out of it. We're not trying to make something where we're running a business where we're doing counseling for people with drug habits or what. We're not doing a single purpose, single focus thing. What we're doing is we're trying to turn one of your buildings into a community center with technology inside and a bunch of mentors that come and teach people. And so I'm gonna challenge you and say it's a unique proposition that I'm bringing to you today. It's not the same as some of the other corporations which may have a single director and which may have a single purpose. This is more community driven. And the other thing is, I've got people lined up to pay the electric bill. I've got philanthropists, people that want this off the ground. What they won't do is they won't pay rent. And if you guys have a building, if you have a piece of property that's not being used right now, what I'm willing to do is negotiate with you on any level. We've got some of the best attorneys in town that are helping us. I'll negotiate with you on any level to pay you a reduced rent, to take it for a year and then have to buy it outright, to turn it into a community rec center, which may fit within the guidelines of the bond requirements. But please, all I want is I want your interest. I just want you to tell me that this is something that the city would do and that you would work with us on. And then we'll work out the details with the attorneys and with the manager and all the details that we can work out. But please just tell me that you see the value of doing something like this for the youth. And the youth is 8 to 80-year-olds. It's not just children, it's all the people that aren't in school, that are troubled right now, that could use a coding experience, that could learn how to, build a website and get excited about building a new career. And that's one of the things that I taught at the code camp was how to build a website for free. Now, how many kids could learn from that and start building a career path out of that? So there's a lot of mentorship opportunities, but the thing is, we can't do this in someone's basement. We can't do it at the Help Hatters. We can't draw people if there's not a place that's recognized as a training center where people want to go and donate their time. And so all I wanted tonight was not an answer on a building or a dollar amount. I just wanted to know if you would partner with us.
Mr. Mayor, I got one more question are you done now? So have you presented this to the county as well?
Not formally.
Not formally. It says Columbia Makers Space. So I'll just, Columbia to me means Columbia High, Columbia County, Columbia, whatever the case may be. So I just wanted to know if you presented it to to the county commissioners to see if they had any input on what you're trying to accomplish. And again, when you talk about robots and robotic, that is needed in this community. I totally agree with that. But I want to be fair, people do come up and ask for monies and different things like that, buildings, so forth and so on. But I just want to be fair. When you say Columbia Maker's Space, me personally, if Columbia is not going to assist or be aware of what's going on, I think it should be City Maker Space instead of Columbia. And again, I just got an opinion, and you got all the answers. That's all I'm saying. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anything else?
That's it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move into ordinances. We're to open a public hearing on City Council Ordinance Number 2024-2286 on final reading. Mr. Bell, would you read that, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of the council, you have before you ordinance number 2024-2286, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Lake City, Florida, closing, abandoning, and vacating a utilities easement for HCA Florida Lake City Hospital pursuant to application VRW 24-03 submitted by same, finding, abandoning, and vacating said utilities easement will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare, authorizing and directing the mayor to execute such quitclaim of easements as are necessary to effectuate the intent hereof, directing the city attorney to prepare said quitclaim of easement, finding it is in the best interest of the city and for the general welfare of its citizens to vacate said easement, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Should the council wish to adopt this ordinance, an appropriate motion would be to adopt ordinance number 2024-2286 on second reading.
Okay, anybody in the audience want to speak to this ordinance?
Now, I don't want to be out of order, but I do want to I do want to comment and ask a question if it's appropriate, Mayor. Mayor, who sponsored that presentation? Because I know in order to get on the agenda, either yourself or some councilman will have to sponsor such a presentation. Because that's what you told me in order to get on the agenda. Because you remember the agenda for affordable housing couldn't get on there. Them and their crew was against it. Animatics Park couldn't get on the agenda, but we presented a proposal for something that could affect the whole community, much more extensive than what he's talking about. But we couldn't get heard on it, and we've put that as a proposal to the council, and we've never heard back. So I'm just trying to figure out how this get on, and all the things that have previously gone on to help the inner city community has not gotten heard of, not gotten any type of response.
It wasn't me.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing and move it to adoption of City Council Ordinance 2024-2286.
Move to adopt ordinance 2024-2286 on final reading.
Second.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? Ms. Back, you call vote.
Mr. Carter?
Yay.
Mr. Jernigan?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Ms. Young? Yes. Mayor Witt?
Yes. Okay, next we're open a public hearing on City Council Ordinance number 2024-2287 on final reading. Mr. Carter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of the council, you have before you ordinance number 2024-2287 on second and final reading. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Lake City, Florida, closing, abandoning, and vacating a utilities and drainage easement for Clyde Scaffslat pursuant to application VRW 24-01 submitted by same, finding closing, abandoning, and vacating said utilities and drainage easement will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare, conditioning the closing, abandonment, and vacation of said easement on the applicant, granting an alternative drainage easement to the city, authorizing and directing the mayor to execute such quitclaim of easements as are necessary to effectuate the intent hereof, directing the city attorney to prepare said quitclaim of easement from the city to the applicant, directing the city attorney to prepare said grant of easement of the alternative easement from the applicant to the city, finding it is in the best interest of the city and for the general welfare of its citizens to close, abandon, and vacate said easement upon the conditions set forth in this ordinance, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Should the council wish to adopt this ordinance, an appropriate motion would be to adopt ordinance number 2024-2287 on second and final reading.
Anybody knowledge speak for or against this ordinance?
So, Mr. Moore, Mr. Mayor, two things. One, why do we have a metal detector in this building? What was the purpose for the metal detector and who caused it?
That came up a long time ago, and you're aware of what it was, there was somebody that did have a handgun, so we put it in for.
Do you remember who that person was?
I do.
Who was it? Okay, that's what I thought. Mr. Mayor, and my last thing is this not a 119 public hearing? Is this a sunshine hearing where people can speak and understand what is being said in the public?
Yeah.
Why do we have
Point of order,
council?
Mr. Mayor. This has nothing to do with.
I'm asking a question, then you can't point order me.
Okay, get to the point, like,
Right.
but from now, when I call discussion.
I second that point of order, Mayor.
Mayor, listen, I wanna know why we're whispering at the diocese. If you got Ms. Young whispering to Mr. Rosenstoff, you got her whispering. We need to know what's being said. You can't whisper up here and we not hear what's being said. You gotta stop the whispering.
Okay.
You the chair.
Okay, talk to this ordinance.
Say what now?
Talk to this.
I'm asking you, can you
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
talk to the staff?
Point of order.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, that's it. Talk on this ordinance or sit down.
Would you ask the staff not to do that, please?
Okay, anybody else wanna speak? To the ordinance. From now on, it'll all be on the topic. The general discussion will be general discussion. Okay, we'll close the public hearing, move into adoption of City Council Ordinance 2024-2287.
Move to adopt ordinance 2024-2287 on final reading.
Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Oxley, call the roll.
Mr. Carter?
Yay.
Mr. Jernigan?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Ms. Young? Yes. Mayor Whit?
Yes. Okay, next item is update and direction from council on call out severance package.
What is the last one?
All right, in your packet, you'll have a report to council, and there was direction given by the council on May the 6th. So staff sought out to obtain an independent written opinion on funds paid to a departing city manager to see if it was appropriate, and if not, what would the remedy for the city be. So in your packet, you'll see it says, it was determined that the city does not have coverage via the Florida League of Cities Employment Law Advisor ELA hotline or with the Florida League of Cities. New loss claims, therefore, estimates were requested from the two attorneys identified below. There's a Smith and Spellman, currently handles the ELA hotline for the city. I spoke with him and he reported he could perform the investigation and issue the opinion, but he did not respond to the written request for an estimate. Cavendish Partners, Michael Cavendish, I spoke with him also. He was provided as a referral from attorney Susan Erdely, and when I spoke with him, he reported that he could perform the investigation and issue the opinion for an estimated of 10 hours at $330 per hour. And so staff is just wanting to provide you with this information to see if you wish to pursue it any further, or if this is anything that you wish to not pursue.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, obviously, I asked staff to look into this a couple months ago. I think, again, we're talking about nearly $250,000 that I think was issued by mistake. So it sounds to me like the estimate is for roughly $3,300 to hire the lawyer to give us an official opinion, and I think we should do that.
Okay, is that a motion?
I make a motion, or actually, I want to make sure I understand right. Do I need to make a motion to do that, or do we need to bring it back as a resolution?
Mr. Mayor, typically on an item such as this, it would come back before the council as a resolution. And so if anything, I think I and the city manager would like clear direction that it does need to come back as a resolution for consideration for the council at the next meeting.
Mr. Campbell.
I got a question. Angie, do you have an exact number of what Mr. Dowd received? Was in his server packet?
I don't have that number with me right now.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I have to speak on this topic.
I did too, man.
I mean, I don't know if you're blind, but I put all, items.
Come on and speak.
If you got a problem with me, in the public meeting speaking?
No.
Oh, I was gonna say, cause it's my right. Well, y'all just don't get it. I mean, Trump can say what he wanna say, but then I get up there, I can't do it. I say what I wanna do and what I wanna say. So the issue is that there's an investigation that needs to be happened by Mr. Point of Order and his supporter, Point of Order, that Mr. Dow wrongly received money. Here's the problem. In this investigation, Mr. Mayor, because you involved in it too as well, that I don't find it to be a one attorney issue. I find it to be the law firms in which were hired to be liable. So we're not gonna hopefully single out Mr. Todd Kennedy, his law firm, but also the law firm of Mr. Martin as well, because they both had the contract and they were both working in conjunction to make sure that things were done municipally correct. So if this investigation is targeting just Mr. Kennedy and his law firm and gonna pursue them and their insurance, then I would ask that it do the same for Mr. Clay Martin and his part as well, because they both signed a contract to provide services to the city. And when they came up here and presented, if my memory serves me well, and I'm 43 and I have a memory like an elephant, graduated from high school when I was 15. And I vividly remember them saying, this would be a sweetheart deal because you're getting 2 for 1. That's what they said. And what we've gotten is 2 and nothing. Is what we've got. Since Todd was here, we're gonna discuss the fact that we don't even have Sally Mae Jerry Park done right, that he promised that we were gonna get right. They didn't even do that right. And they sat here and they lied to us, and you admitted that they lied to us. This law firm is horrible. Todd Kennedy didn't have any experience. He was a family lawyer, and I pointed that out. And Clay Martin is also not up to speed for what we need in Lake City. He holds up stuff, he delays stuff, and he plays political games when it comes to things that's benefit for this city. Try to get a response from it. Ask staff to get a response. How long does it take for us to get responses from him? And then look at the billing report, how we're getting billed. Y'all do not investigate him and his law firm as well. That's all I'm asking, Mel. Be fair in this investigation. Because I don't know what the investigation is calling for. I don't know whether it's just singly, or you just going after Mr. Todd Kennedy and the Robinson law firm, or you going after all law firms. But if you're not going after all law firms, you might as well just ball that up and throw it in the trash can. Because that's very, very unfair to a local attorney who did not sign a contract by himself. Thank you.
Mr. Bowden.
Mr. Mayor, I do agree with Councilman Carter that $3,300 is a small amount to pay, given how much exposure we have out there. You know, if we talk about spending thousands and thousands of dollars, that's one thing. But for $3,300, and I agree with Mr. Warren, the investigation might be more inclusive, but $3,300 should not be enough to stop me from pursuing what happened to $250,000. And it's not an attack on Mr. Dow. Mr. Dow got the money, he gone. You know, and nobody wanted that. I told him I want him to get his money back. But if we can get the money from somewhere else for $3,300, it's worth the expense.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to make it clear what I'm hoping to achieve is, like I said the first time we brought this up, I'm not looking at it as like a witch hunt or going after anyone in particular. I mean, Mr. Dow has every right to ask for severance. He got paid the severance he asked for. I think that in that process, mistakes were made. I think that lawyers have insurance for mistakes. So what I'm hoping is achieved by this investigation is does an outside council believe there is a viable claim to E&O insurance, and for whichever or both law firms who have, I assume they both have insurance. So to be clear, it's not one or the other. I don't know how the contracts are written up and who's liable for what, so we need to look into that. What I'm hoping to achieve is, do we have a claim?
Okay, all right, well, I'll come back. Under new business, we have city council ordinance number 2024-2273 on first reading. Mark, would you read that by now?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of the council, you have before you ordinance number 2024-2273, an ordinance of the City of Lake City, Florida, amending the text of the City of Lake City Land Development Regulations as amended pursuant to an application LDR 24-02, relating to an amendment to the text of the Land Development Regulations, providing for amending section 12.4 entitled Notice of Hearing by adding a provision requiring notices to property owners within 300 feet of a property that is the subject of certain land use actions, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date. Should the council wish to adopt this ordinance, an appropriate motion would be to adopt ordinance number 2024-2273 as read by title only on first reading.
Mr. Ward, did you want to speak to this ordinance? Mr. Ward, did you want to speak to this ordinance? There is a motion to the city council ordinance 2024-2273.
Move to approve ordinance 2024-2273.
Second. Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any discussion? Ms. Oxley, you call the roll.
Mr. Carter?
Yay.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Ms. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Cardigan?
Yes.
Mayor Witten?
Yes. Okay, next is item 22, city council ordinance 2024-2288 on first reading. Mr. Carter, would you read that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of the council, you have before you ordinance number 2024-2288, an ordinance of the City of Lake City, Florida, calling for a referendum question to be placed before the qualified electors of the City of Lake City at a special election to be held on Tuesday, November 5th, 2024, providing a charter referendum question determining whether the means by which the City Council may establish the compensation of the mayor and members of the City Council shall be limited exclusively to adoption of a standalone resolution of the City Council, where the subject matter of such resolution is limited to the question of such compensation, and permitting the City Council to further implement such charter provision by ordinance, providing for requisite ballot language, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Mr. Mayor, should the council wish to adopt this ordinance, appropriate motion would be to adopt ordinance number 2024-2288 as read on first reading by title only.
Mr. Moore, did you want to speak to this?
In all due respect, I would love to speak out with Mr. Bowden, because I know that this is something that he's passionate, he's championing, if you would allow so, Mayor.
Mr. Bowden?
Mr. Mayor, I thought you agreed that Mr. Martin will read the salary into the record, line 17 through 34.
You have that right there.
Sir?
If you want to read it, I can get, or I can ask him.
That's what I'm asking.
I'll be happy to read it. I just didn't want to read it as part of the title, which is part of the legal requirements.
Go ahead and read it, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Is now appropriate, Mr.
What'd you say?
I was waiting on the card to go by. I said, would now be an appropriate time, Mr. Mayor?
Okay.
Okay. Starting with line 17, whereas section 302 of the Charter of the City of Lake City presently provides the City Council has the authority to set the salaries of the mayor and members of the City Council by ordinance, and whereas the city has applied section 302 of the Charter via the annual budget approval process, which process does not necessarily allow for a standalone vote by the City Council on the single subject of compensation of mayor and members of the City Council. Whereas Florida Statute 166.031 provides that a governing body of a municipality may by ordinance submit to the electors a proposed amendment to its charter. Whereas the City Council of the City of Lake City desires to submit one referendum question to the city's qualified electors that, if approved, would strike the present provision of section 302 of the charter, authorizing establishment by ordinance the annual salaries of the mayor and members of the City Council, and instead establish that, one, the mayor and City Council may only establish or change the compensation of the mayor and members of the City Council by adoption of a standalone resolution where the subject matter of such resolution is limited to the question of such increase in compensation. And 2, the city council and mayor may further implement the provisions of the newly adopted charter provision by ordinance. And whereas if the proposed amendment to section 302 of the charter were disapproved, the annual compensation of the mayor and members of the city council would continue to be set by ordinance. And then jumping to, I believe it was lines 54 through 65. This is the actual language of the ballot question. Shall mayoral and city council compensation be determined by a single subject standalone resolution? And then the question, shall the city's charter be amended to provide the compensation of the mayor and members of the city council shall only be established or changed by adoption of a standalone single subject resolution, and further permitting the city council and mayor to adopt an ordinance to further implement the provisions of the foregoing charter provision if adopted. And then it has the options for voting, and option 1 is yes to amend the charter as stated above, and option 2 is no to continue establishment by ordinance the annual salaries of the mayor and members of the city council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for allowing the attorney to read that. Basically, Mr. Mayor, this ordinance will not prevent the city council from getting the raise. Point blank. It's as elementary as that. All this ordinance does is say that you can't do it automatic. When I did it, I'm repeating myself because I don't think people understand it. When I voted for it, it was a clear intention so the public would not have a say-so in that process. Yes, he said the budget process, yes, if you follow the budget, you know something about it. But at the end of the day, the public got a right to know. Last year, when this came up, the city council voted not to take the raise. Then the city attorney pointed out, oh, you can't do that, it's in the ordinance. But there was at least 3 people voted to do it. But now all of a sudden, we don't want to do it. I think it's unfair, I think it's undemocratic, I think it's a way of hiding from the public, and I think the public have a right to know. If you're not going to vote for it, as a council, then let the people make the decision. If you're afraid of the people making the vote, then I don't understand why you're in office. This does not prevent you from getting your raise. Ms. Young, it don't stop you from getting the raise. Ms. Carter, I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying, man. Ms. Councilman Young, it don't stop you from getting the raise. All it says is that, okay, a standalone resolution. During the budget process, as Mr. Rosenthal said, okay, we got a lot of money on board here, we're gonna give employees an 8% raise. You know, well, all this says is that, and through a resolution, you have a standalone resolution say, okay, but we don't get an 8% raise. It don't make sense to me personally, because employees deserve an 8% raise. If the economy is going good, you got revenues coming in from Avalon taxes, taxes coming in, got a lot of money, employees get a raise. But they don't get this raise because they're doing the hard work. It has nothing to do with you all in city council. It has something to do with the revenue and the work of the city employees. There is no way in the world you can convince me that those guys out there work aside the road in the heat of the day, get up in the middle of the night to go fix a pothole or gas leak, that they get the 6% raise and they working hard. And you get a 6% raise just because. You can get a 6% raise, have a standalone resolution, and vote for it. Or better yet, put it on the ballot and let the people decide. If you won't put it on the ballot, let the people decide, then that means you're running from the public. And that's not democratic, it's not right, it's not fair. In fact, it's not even moral. To say to us as taxpayers that we're gonna get this automatic raise, we don't care what you got to say about it. It's wrong, Mr. Mayor. I would encourage you all to vote on first reading to pass this ordinance so that people have some say so about their money.
Mayor, I remember you and I had a phone call about this about 2 weeks ago. You talked to me and told me to try to talk to Glenelle and how expensive that this particular special election would be to the city. You remember that conversation?
I do.
Yes, sir.
I said that.
Yes, sir.
That's an election commission.
Yes, sir. And you realize that if this governing body does not vote as to this, either They have an opportunity, the 3 prevailing council members have an opportunity to undo it. And they have an opportunity to do what was right based on this particular resolution. And we don't have to see that type of issue. If it were I, there's a guy by the name of Marcus Aurelius. He's a Stoic philosopher, and he also ruled Rome, 2nd century emperor. And it's governed by 4 principles. One principle being courage, the second principle being temperance, the third principle being wisdom, and the 4th principle being that of justice. I would ask that y'all would apply Stoic wisdom and Stoic principles and Stoic philosophy in dealing with this issue. Because if you don't, Mr. Mayor and council members that prevailed in voting yes for this raise, you have upset the electorate, for sure. The citizens are not happy in nobody's district about this particular issue. Facts, not even the hood. And if you, Mayor, don't somehow try to convince these other young players to get on board and do what's right and what's transparent, it is gonna cost the taxpayers a lot of money. And if you think that Mr. Bowden is not passionate enough to see this through, and if you think that him being my best friend, that I'm not gonna give him every resource, be it money, be it a set of attorneys, be it any financial advisors, way more competent than the city can afford and what the city got. I have the means to do it. I have the attorneys at my disposal. I do not want this nuclear option to take place. We just want what's right and what's fair as taxpayers and as citizens. Let's not go to war over transparency. It would be the worst thing that could ever happen to this city, this community, and those who vote for elected officials. Politicians in America as a whole, and especially Lake City, are being flushed down the toilet as to the integrity of such individuals and the wisdom and the competency. So, Mayor, I ask that you all do what is transparent and fair and not cost the city any more unnecessary money. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
I would just like to speak to you and the rest of the council. I asked this to be put on there. I asked Mr. Martin to draw this up. Obviously, we've already debated whether or not we agree on the subject matter, but quite frankly, at this point, I believe that Mr. Bowden is a dog with a bone here. And the numbers I've been given is that if he succeeds in getting his petitions, we could be looking at spending $30,000 to $40,000 on a special election in a few months for an issue that, in my opinion, again, nothing's stopping us from giving ourselves a raise at some point in the future. Nothing at all. It's just telling the people we're doing it and then allowing them to tell us what they think about it. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, quite frankly, we've done a lot of stuff. I say we haven't been here that long. I'm the new guy. But the board's done plenty of things to make people mad. They come up and yell at us all the time. If we decide in a year or 2 years to give ourselves a raise, I feel like if that's something that the board thinks that they ought to do or that we deserve, we can take a little bit of yelling if that's what it takes, you know? But to me, it just seems like it is a very good likelihood that if we don't do this, he will be successful. If he is successful, the city will have to pay for that, and it will be a lot of money. And honestly, in my opinion, the main thing we should be doing here is being good stewards of the money that we're in charge of. So if we can avoid spending a ton of money on something that doesn't seem that unreasonable to me, I would like to. That's my opinion.
Well, I know, when I got my special election 20 years ago, 19 years ago, cost the city $45,000. So, figure out how much more it's going down.
Well, first of all, I have nothing to hide. I don't think this council has anything to hide. But my argument is with Mr. Bowden is you are still benefiting from when you voted to do this. Again, I don't want the city to have to spend this money for all this money for a special election.
Mr. Mayor, I don't know what this here means, that demonstrated by.
When I say that, when you voted to give yourself a raise,
Yeah, that's been 30 years.
that was 30 years ago.
Right. It was wrong then.
Mr. Bond, I get that.
Okay.
I get that.
All we talking about is transparency
Again,
and accountability.
Alright. Alright, Mr. Johnny, did you wanna say something?
Mayor, I just don't understand, man, how people, I don't know, but, I will not be bullied by anybody. That's for sure.
Alright.
I
So,
will say, are you finished?
yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Outside of this room, I have heard not one person, and I've gotten phone calls, people ask me questions about it, and I'm sorry, but not one person agrees that this is hiding or not being transparent. Everybody says it's there, it's nothing wrong with it, it makes no sense to change it. Really?
Church people?
Really?
Is there a
I go
motion?
other places.
Yeah, I know we don't.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve ordinance number 2024-2288 on first reading.
Been a motion, is there a second? I'll second it for a vote. Any discussion?
Again, Mayor, I'm not here to hide anything, when it comes to monies or anything else for that matter. Any X's, O's, or pulling plugs, I'm not into doing any of that stuff. So, and that's why you didn't get a second from me, and you won't get a second.
May I continue discussion? Just one last, last ditch effort, if you will. I don't think we're talking about a large amount of money. I don't think we're talking about that big a deal, quite frankly. But it's an expensive roll of the dice, is all I'm saying. On whether or not he's successful with this campaign.
Again, Mr. Carter, I'll agree with you on the amount of money that we would have to spend on a special election. But for years,
But I would just say that venerability is not an excuse to continue doing something. Just because it's what was done for a long time doesn't necessarily mean anything. In this case, I just think it's just clearer. Like I said, if we decide to do this in a year or two, and people come and yell at us, it won't be any different than any other meeting. They come and yell at us all the time, you know, and as they're right. So that's my only thought. It's about, are we going to win this argument? And I say we as a body voted against it. Against Mr. Brown, we're gonna win this argument and then end up having to pay a whole lot of money. To me, it just seems like the wise decision to.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Carter, now you wanna call us a body, but it doesn't appear to me as you see yourself as a part of this body. This was done, the council had voted on it and you brought it back for $3,000. $3,000 up against all these thousands of dollars. That's what the pay raise is. $3,000.
That's what I was saying when I said it's not a lot of money and it's not that big a deal. But
It's a big deal though.
$45,000 is a lot of money.
Okay, I wasn't finished. It's a big deal. You made it a big deal. You brought it back. It was done. Voted on, done with. Mr. Bowden said he was done with it. You brought it back and you talking about all this money, but around $3,000 worth of raises. That's not hidden.
May I respond?
Sure.
He didn't say he was done. He said that if we don't do it, he's gonna get the petitions necessary to cause a referendum, which will force a special
He
election.
wasn't gonna argue with the council. No, I realize what he said. I know what he
Just to be
said.
clear.
Okay, I'm done.
Ms. Knight, call the roll.
Mr. Carter,
Yay.
Mayor Witt,
Yay.
Mr. Hill. Mr. Hill is silent vote. Ms. Young?
No.
Or Mr. Jernigan?
No.
Passes 3-2.
Yes, because Mr. Hill was silent.
So, Frank, if you can take us about in whatever shape you want me to.
No, it's passed.
Now, it passes.
So that was the second.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Getting back to item 5, resolution 2024 -057, we'll make this under resolution number 25. We can take it off the table tonight. Ms. Young, do you wanna do that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's a motion to remove it.
Yes, we get the numbers right, yes. I make a motion to remove from the table City Council Resolution 2024, -057.
Second.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Yeah, yes, I just want to make sure I'm clear on this. I know, Dr. Barrett come up, and this has been going on for quite some time now. And, all he wants to do is to show action. There's no action being done. I want to task the city manager and his staff, to meet with Dr. Barrett quite often and get the things done that we need to get done. I don't want to postpone this any longer. You know, I just don't want to postpone it. I want Dr. Barrett to see some action out there at Florida Gateway College. And I guess, and that's not asking too much from this team to do. So I'm going to task the city manager, and we've already talked about this in length. And I also had a talk with Dr. Barrett. So I think if we were to get on these top issues concerning Florida Gateway College, I don't think there'll be a problem. I looked at a number here. It had $140,000 or something like that, and I was wondering why that number was not written out. I mean, like written down in numbers instead of wording, stuff like that. And when you look at the contract, there's things in there that Dr. Berry don't agree with, and I don't agree with. So I just want to make sure, even though that is that's like a draft, I just want to make sure we get that college and the things that we got going wrong. I just want to make sure that we get it right.
Councilman, if I may.
Yes.
We fully intend to do that. This is just permission to apply for the grant.
Yes.
And then what we do with the grant after we actually get the grant, even if we get it, is another discussion entirely.
Yes, sir.
I had talked to the president of the school, and we had agreed to work together. He just felt that he needed to come here and make his presentation to the board, and he did just that. I am committed to helping him resolve some of those problems and the issues. I think he has some legitimate concerns, as we discussed today, and we're going to work with him until we get those things resolved.
And I agree that, I've known Mr. Barrett for a good while now, and I know there's been issues that I thought had gotten resolved, but apparently they didn't. And we got a new manager, a new team going, so we can work on them. I'm gonna support the application, but I want the staff to look at the things Mr. Barrett brought up as far as technicalities and see if they have concerns for us.
We'll do, Mayor.
Mayor, we have a motion on the floor.
Right now,
Dr. Barrett could be heard, he came back, he just is talking. He wants to be heard.
okay, come on up.
We have a motion on the floor, Mayor.
Just let everybody respond.
I appreciate your diligence in this evening, that I had to come back to hear this. What I would point out to the council, the application, the draft application you have before you is false. And it's many areas. I pointed out 6, and I can go through them in entirety again. I can go back to my car. But what you presented to pass tonight is not accurate. It's not accurate. There is a decision here that there's a property dispute, that the college claims property and the city claims property. And in the affidavit of citing this in federal law says you are acknowledging the accuracy of that. And I pointed out many inaccuracies to this document tonight. I would substantially request that you wait on making this decision and table this motion. That is my request of you. Thank you.
Right.
My only issue with that, Mayor, is that if we table the application for the grant, we're going to lose the grant because we're beyond the time we can apply for it.
Okay, we'll look at those issues immediately so that we can be sure.
We'll do.
Okay. Ms. Sykes, you call the roll.
Mr. Mayor, just for clarification, the motion before the board at the moment is just to remove it from the table.
Yes.
If it's taken from the table, there would be a second vote required on the substance of the
All in favor
resolution
of
itself.
removing it from the table, say aye. Opposed?
Nay.
So I have Mr. Carter as a no and then Mr. Jernigan as a no.
That's great.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve 2024-057?
Mayor, I'd like to make that motion to approve resolution 2024-057,
You say to approve?
to approve it. Did she make the motion to?
Yeah, that would be correct. We need a motion now. If you're wanting to apply for the grant, that is correct.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
I did it right.
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
To apply for the grant?
Yeah.
Second.
That's correct, Mr. Martin, is that correct? That's what the
That is
resolution
correct,
does,
yes.
yes, okay.
Okay, any discussion?
I'm just really concerned about the land dispute. I met with Mr. Barrett and talked about it, and it feels like if we're not sorted that out, that it's tantamount to lying on an application, which I think is bad and we shouldn't do that. I know it's frustrating because I'd love to be able to get this money for the airport, so it's not an easy opposition I have to this, but there is a legitimate land dispute.
One solution would be to just put that we don't think there's a land dispute, the college does, and explain it. Put it in that application. All right, that's how you call the roll.
Mr. Jernigan?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Ms. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Carter?
Nay.
Mayor Witt?
Yes. Okay, next is schedule a council photo session, is that August?
Is everyone gonna be here? Lee sees us the second week, correct?
Yes, I think so. First of all, this is Thursday.
meeting, is that
Okay. What is that?
Photo session.
okay? Photos,
On what day?
August the 5th, that's the first meeting in August. Is everyone okay with that? Mr. Rosenthal, you good with that? Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I have
No,
a comment.
No.
I had a comment too, man.
Okay, go ahead.
First of all, I'd like to let the citizens know in Forest Hill that the chief Butler and his staff did a traffic study over there in that area. And the traffic study shows clearly, I have the documentation here, and I plan on giving it to the constituents in that district over there of what the findings. And I don't see anything major wrong with the traffic study that was done. So I just want to go on the record to let people know that we did do a traffic study for Forest Hill. At this time, there's no violations. However, I am gonna talk, I think several of the citizens were wondering about the speed bumps in that area over there. I was gonna get with the city manager and the fire department to see if we could move some of the speed bumps around in there. I think that was one of the requests that they were inquiring about. So we'll try to get as much as we can done for that area to continue to make sure that that's a safe neighborhood. I think we do have a police officer or two that lives over there in that area. So we are definitely on those violators over there if they're violating. Okay, that's it.
And also I have to, Martin Luther King, there's requests on speed bumps, Martin Luther King. It's surely needed there, a lot of children, there's a great concern about there. And the other comment I have is, council members, you should have received an email, concerning Ms. Sykes' evaluation. And we need to go ahead and get that done. It's far past due. So let's get very serious about that and get it done as soon as we possibly can. And we would actually get with Ms. Sykes and schedule, a time to meet with her for her evaluation.
Do you want me to do another evaluation, ma'am? You want me to do another one because I've already got with her and did one evaluation. Want me to do another one?
I don't know what y'all do.
No, we just did it today. Matter of fact, we did that evaluation, and if you want to talk to her about that, that's perfectly fine. I don't have a problem with that. But I did do that evaluation, so I really appreciate you bringing that to to everybody's attention.
Yes, ma'am. Real quick, my comments here. Again, in the further adventures of James gets to know everybody that works for the city. This past Friday, I got to spend a couple hours with the airport director, Ed Vanell. Show me around the airport, show me kind of what we do, what we have going on there. I was really interested to learn just how frequently it's used by dignitaries, the governors and senators and business people. It's very interesting the way that our airport works, and they generate a lot of revenue for the city as well. I just want to recognize a few people that are out there today. So obviously, Director Ed Bonnell, also Airport Manager John Nettles, Andrew Myers, lineman, third class, and he introduced himself as a senior lineman. He seemed very proud about that. Casey Roach, lineman, second class. Floyd Reifenborough, lineman, first class, and Jason Weston, lineman, first class. Just want to thank everybody that works at the airport. They do an excellent job, and they have a really tight ship and a great facility out there.
I got a phone call just today about speed bumps over on Georgia Street. And on yesterday, some guys on Wilson Street, corner of Wilson and Marion Street there, they lining up the race down Wilson Street. That's crazy. We need to do something about this speeding. And I'm saying, what it's gonna take for somebody's child to get run over, for something to be done about it. That's all I have.
Okay. Anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Everybody have a safe holiday. To adjourn.